Hi everyone, it's Linnea for LDRS Creative, and we're going to make a card start to finish using the Magic Spin Wheel kit. I'll show you how this kit is assembled, as well as create a finished card at the end with an adorable picnic scene. So let's go ahead and get started by die cutting the pieces I need. I'm using the Magic Spin Wheel dies, and I've used the largest die to cut out a card panel for my A2 card. I'll show you which die I used on this set. It's this largest one that cuts out the panel size slightly smaller than an A2 card. It's going to cut the notch at the top for the Magic Spin Wheel sentiment to show through, as well as that semicircle, that half circle on the side for you to create your spin wheel. Then I used the large circular die. This is going to cut my wheel, and I cut that from the same color cardstock as I cut my background, so you can see that I'll get a seamless look. You could cut this from specialty cardstock or a different color cardstock if you want to, but this is the part that's going to spin. The last piece that I needed to cut was this little circle with the hole punched through the center, and this piece is not going to show, so you can cut this from whatever color cardstock you want. I cut it from white just so that you can see that against the blue. We're going to start with the wheel itself, and you can see here that when you die cut this, you're going to have etched lines pressed into your die cut piece. Those little kind of banana shapes, that's going to outline where you're going to stamp your sentiments. That's going to be the magic part of this interactive card, where you can spin this wheel and see 3 different sentiments. So I'm going to start with those curved sentiments at the bottom of the stamp set that comes with the Magic Spin Wheel kit. And I'll choose whatever sentiments I want to have, and all of those curved sentiments down at that bottom half of the stamp set, they will all fit within that little banana pressed outline space here. So I'll use an acrylic block. You could use a stamping platform if you want, but these are small, and I find that it's easier for me to line them up with an acrylic block since I can just peek through and see exactly where I need to stamp these sentiments. I'll choose 3 different sentiments and stamp them each in their little banana outline. This is easy to see. I showed it up to the camera there and kind of tilted it so you could see it in the light. Once you get this into your own craft studio, you're going to be able to see these lines quite easily. So I've already stamped sunshine and laughter, and now this last one is happiness. And you'll see how these words tie in after I stamp my sentiment at the top of my little spin wheel cutout piece. So up at the top of the stamp set, there are lots of different sentiments that you can stack together or use individually if you want to. There's words that just say wishing you, love you, things like that. And so I'm going to stamp hope your day is, and then I'm also going to stamp filled with. So our completed sentiments are going to read, when you spin that wheel, hope your day is filled with laughter, sunshine, and happiness. And it's just a nice little uplifting note to send to somebody. It doesn't have to have a particular occasion. It could be for a birthday, but it could just be for all occasion. I love this mix of sentiments. It's perfect for just sending a little note of happiness through the mail. So I went ahead and stacked those sentiments, stamped them right at the top of that little cutout, and you can see how perfectly those stacked sentiments fit. So now when I put this in, and you can see how this is going to spin, like I said, it's going to read, hope your day is filled with laughter, happiness, and sunshine. This wheel is going to spin, but we want to make sure our recipients know that they need to spin this wheel. Great news, the stamp set comes with just the little add-on that you need to make sure that whoever you send this to spins this little notched wheel. So what I'm going to do is hold this in place. I'm using those etched lines that cut into my wheel, lined that up so that my sentiment is centered in that cutout at the top. And now you can see when you put this onto an A2 card front, there is a little bit of space to the right of the Magic Spin Wheel. In the stamp set, there's a solid arrow. There's also a sentiment that says turn me with a little arrow that you can stamp right next to your wheel so that that will indicate to your recipient that they need to do something to make this card become magical. So I've inked that up with some black ink, and I'm going to stamp it right to the right of my spinning wheel, and it just says turn me with a little arrow. I'll give that a press, and now once we assemble this card, the recipient is going to know that they need to spin that wheel to reveal all 3 of their magic sentiments. You could complete this step in any order you want. You can build your scene and then put your interactive card together, or you can put your interactive card together and then build your scene. I like to complete my entire card front and then assemble everything last. I found that that's the easiest way to complete these magic spin wheel cards, but you can do whatever you're most comfortable with. I went through the ephemera that comes in this kit, and I picked out some of the ones where all these little critters are having a happy little picnic. So I have my picnic basket, I have the bunny that's eating watermelon, I have a cat drinking some lemonade, and then a raccoon drinking lemonade too. I have some scene building elements like some birds, some bushes, and flowers that are going to help me set the scene. And I'm going to lay these all out and play around with how I want them to be so that then I can go in with my adhesives. I used foam adhesive and liquid adhesive. And once I had them positioned the way I wanted, I sucked them down so that they were permanently adhered. You can see that some of the areas are hanging off. You could leave them hanging off if you wanted to, but I wanted to keep everything confined to this A2 card front that the die cut. So I just turned it over and snipped off anything hanging off the edges with my scissors, and then I cleaned that up really quickly. Now it's time to put the magic spin wheel together. I'm going to put this card front to the side for a moment and work with just that tiny circle die cut piece and that larger magic spin wheel die cut piece. I also have one of the mini brads that come in this kit, and I'm going to start by taking that mini brad and poking it through the center of that small circle, the one I cut from white, poking it right through the middle, and then I'm going to poke that through the larger magic spin wheel. Then I'll flip that over and I will open up the ends of the brad so that all of those pieces are secured. Now here's a tip, don't press down too hard on the brad. You want this to be a little bit loose. So you could see me there, I was holding on, pinching it at the back and the front of the brad, and then spinning that. If it takes a little bit of effort to spin, you want to pick those edges of the brad up just a little bit so that it's not pressing down hard. You want this to be able to move and spin freely. When I adhere this to my card, I don't want to see that brad, and if you were to adhere this as it is, that brad might push through the front of your card when it goes through the mail, because when it goes through the mail, it's going to get pressed into machines. So I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape in a triangle around this brad. You want to be careful when you're doing this because this needs to be free moving. So the adhesive can only touch that white circle, the smallest circle. It can't touch the brad, and it can't touch the magic spin wheel either. So I have thin strips of adhesive only on that smallest circle in the center so that everything else is moving. Now we're going to adhere this onto our card, and you can see that the outline that's pressed into the magic spin wheel is going to line up perfectly with that cut out sentiment where the sentiment peeks through. There are also stitched guidelines on the right side of the magic spin wheel that are going to line up with that half circle on the right. So there are 2 areas where you can use to line these up, and just use those score lines that are pushed into your die cut to make sure you're aligning that up with your card front properly. Now since I added foam tape to the front there, I need to add some to the back as well to make sure that the magic spin wheel element is lifted up off the card panel and it's not pressing down flat, otherwise it won't move. So again, be careful with your adhesive here. Remember that that spin wheel, in order to spin, needs to be able to move freely. So my adhesive, I am only adding onto the back of this card front panel. I'm going to be super careful to make sure that none of my adhesive touches that spin wheel at all. Now I am using a double layer of foam adhesive. You don't have to, but I like to use a double layer so that everything is fully elevated and everything seems to spin better with a double layer, especially since my adhesive is only 1/16 of an inch thick, so it's quite thin. If you have thicker foam tape, you might find that just 1 layer is enough. Kind of play around with it and see what you like the best. Again, I'm going to add my adhesive only to the back side where it's not touching the magic spin wheel. So I have some going straight across the top, straight across the bottom, and then I'm just kind of filling in around the wheel to add some support. but making sure that it's not actually touching the wheel. Once I have all my foam tape in place and doubled up, I'm going to just go ahead and remove the backer from that tape, and then I can put my decorated card front along with the interactive spinning mechanism onto my card base, and this card will be completed. Here's my finished card with everything adhered, and you can see how easy it is to spin that wheel, and that little turn me sentiment on the side lets your recipient know that they should spin that wheel to see all three of their special greetings. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There is another video using this kit on the LDRS Creative YouTube channel, along with a video that shows a dozen examples if you need some inspiration to kickstart your creativity for when you get this kit home. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!